Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the Ascension Playground. This is your friend Ursie, and today I'd like to share a part 3 for this idea of an evolutionary journey with the stars, learning some of the galactic kind of terminology. I don't know. I didn't anticipate going this deep into the vocabulary, but it's starting to make more sense to me as we use the galacticastrochart.com calculator. It's like, here are the stories, here is the word, but show me a picture. Okay, so here we go with part 3. Let me share my screen. It's just so fascinating to me because my sense is as we become more galactic, we're going to be able to tune into the vibration of ourselves as souls having also an evolutionary journey. Nothing is static. If everything is truly energy, then sure, we're either a growing, expanding, or at some point of the birth or death process. So this is pretty exciting. Part 3. Again, I'm really tuning into this Hermetic Principle that as above, so below, and also as within, so without. So the more I learn about the galactic and the stars and the heavens, I'm thinking, wow, and how does that relate to me and within my body? Okay, so here we go. This is a little refresher in case you missed part 1 and 2. But this idea that stars aren't just there forever, that they've had a beginning, a middle age, let's say, and then an older, elderly stage, and then they die, and then they transform. And their transformations have different names. And so much of what happens in the interstellar cloud and the star nursery of a nebula is that these beautiful stars are being born and birthed. And so the little ones and the medium-sized ones, they have a particular trajectory, and that's what's shared here in this visual. For a small or mid-sized star can turn into a red giant eventually, and then into a planetary nebula, and then potentially into a white dwarf. Whereas the big, massive stars then move into from large star category into red supergiant or even a supernova later, and then can move into a black hole status or a neutron star. So fascinating. I had no idea. And if there's any biologists out here listening, I bet you could take the same metaphor and apply it into our bodies in some amazing way with cellular division. I don't know. I'm just saying, I'm doing science and bio light. Okay. And then I wanted to share this as a visual reminder too, that just like a star, we are on a human bodily evolutionary process from when we were a fetus in our mother's womb to when we had our baby stage to younger child stage. And let me just pause for a minute for this younger child stage. This is why I call myself Ursie only on the playground, because my father would call me Ursie. Otherwise, most people say Ursula, or my brother Pete, he calls me, hey, Urs. So, this is why I say Ursie on the playground, because I'm calling in some ways my own inner child to come out and play. Don't be so serious. So even though I'm sharing information, I'm really engaging with this idea of, whoa, look at the wonder of it all. So yes, and then we move into our adulthood and middle age. So let's just look at this picture for middle age. A middle age for a star's middle age would turn either into a red giant or a red supergiant star. And then with the elder stage, our hair turns white, but so does a star when it is at its last phase or even in its death rattle, it does turn white. So that's just about the idea that there's no more gas or heat within me, so I turn white. and then later even into a black hole. Okay, this is where I want to begin in part 3. See this guy's face above me? This is Ptolemy, or at least an illustration of Ptolemy. You're going to hear this name, Ptolemy, with a silent P, because he was a mathematician and an astronomer. He lived like 100 AD. Think about that. 100 years after the death of Christ, and lived to be 70 years old. So he passed in 170 in the Christian era. So Claudius Ptolemy, look at that face. He's holding his notebooks and, his instruments, but living in Alexandria, right? In Egypt, one wonders, is that the same Alexandria with the library? And if anyone knows, was the library still alive when Ptolemy was living in 100 AD? Have to go check out, when was the library burned with all that information? Anyway, his treatise on astronomy is known as the Almagest. So the Almagest is something that, again, when you start looking at the constellations, so we see stars, but then stars are grouped in constellations that have stories and metaphors. Some of the constellations are animals, birds, fish. Some are insects. Some are objects like scales. Some are heroes, men. There's some women, not too many. Andromeda and Virgo come to mind. But you see, the heavens are filled with names of constellations. And so when you think of Ptolemy, think of the gentleman way back, 100 AD. Imagine that. I mean, no indoor plumbing. Way back, sandals, 100 years after the death of Christ. So in his treatise, with his instruments looking up into the heavens, he actually named 48 seen from Earth constellations. And as many of you know, today we have 88 named. So from his time of 170 till today, think of that. He was able to basically, almost like Adam in the Genesis story, start naming the constellations. Now, if you go on the other side of the world into China, the Chinese and the astronomers and the Asians, they were tracking the stars in their own way as well. But here we're looking at Ptolemy and the Almagest. So, do you remember this? Unfortunately, earlier I got confused and called this Orion Ring Nebula, but it's really the Orion Nebula. Whenever you see this beautiful picture, just think of a star nursery. Wah, wah. A lot is happening in the clouds of gas and dust. Things are collapsing and shifting and forming. And I just put in again that picture of the Mayan priest of Mesoamerica as a visual reminder for those who are studying and talking about the galactic, that there's oftentimes this pairing of the Mayans in South America with this particular Orion Nebula. Okay. Then the next slide, here we go. This is M16, Messier 16. So when you look up in the skies, this is what's called the Eagle Nebula. Do you see how it kind of looks? You're starting to get an idea of what does a nebula look like. Let me go back 1 minute. Here we go. This is the Orion Nebula, located in the Orion constellation. Now this is the Eagle Nebula. See the commonality between, dust and gas and moving things around? This one, however, is located not in Orion, but in the constellation called Serpens. Serpens is a fun word to say snake. So it's in the snake constellation. Anyway, and I just put in some information from Wikipedia, but M16, if you Google just show me images of M16, you're going to see many, many images of this gorgeous nebula in the heavens. So what does it say? It So it's part of the Milky Way galactic plane, and it's passing through the Serpentine or the Serpens constellation. But this constellation is really large. So it's calling out Serpens Cauda, Cauda. I'm going to let you know what that means in a minute. But it's also within this particular area of Serpens constellation is something called the Eagle Nebula. So we're seeing big like Serpens constellation, and then we're zooming in and we're finding M16, the Eagle Nebula. And within the Eagle Nebula, this is what I tried to put a picture of in part 2, and I forgot to do it. So it's these pillars of creation. Just think of that word, or the words pillars of creation, right? So there's 3 huge dust clouds that became famous when the Hubble Space Telescope brought us back these images. And if you look where the brightest white light is, you can start seeing these pillars shoot up. Now I'm going to show you something that you may, well, actually, here we go. I'm showing you the Serpens Nebula, these pillars of creation. You see how they're starting to jut out? But Hubble did not bring us as clear an image, of course, as we know, as the James Webb Telescope, that we're seeing images this year in 2022 for the first time. The clarity is amazing. But before we go there, let's go back to Serpens constellation. And here's a picture from Urania's mirror. I think these were done in the 1800s. So we're seeing images that someone put together, bringing the myth and the story of the stars into a visual diagram. And as you know, if you get the Box of Stars by Catherine Tennant on Amazon, you get to have these very large cards that can help you learn about the stories of the stars. Anyway, so here we go. This calls out again Ptolemy, 48 named constellations in his, 100 AD. And so this particular constellation didn't get chopped up too much, but you can see there's 2 parts of the snake. There's the part that's the head of the snake and the tail. And in between, we have this man known as the serpent handler, also known as Ophiuchus. And I'm going to segue real quickly. Some of us have been reading about the 13th potential zodiacal sign, Ophiuchus. It does hit the ecliptic, but there's such big debate and fighting around. No, it's only 12 zodiac signs. And we should, or there's the other group, we should add Ophiuchus into it as the 13th sign. And then you have someone else saying, you guys, you don't get it. The zodiacal signs and their meaning are not necessarily paired with the stars in the heavens, with the constellations. So I don't want to get into that debate just yet. But here we are back to the snake constellations. Like things get a little pss, pss, pss when you start talking about the snake energy, right? So serpens caput. Anytime you see the word caput, or caput, it means the head. So when your head has gone kaput, I'm going to give you that kind of way of thinking about it. The kaput means head. So in this case, serpens caput, the head of the snake, is to the west, and serpens cauda is the tail. And I'm not going to give you an image for how you think of cauda, cauda in the tail. So you can figure that one out yourself. But there's 2 halves of the snake. And again, there's Ophiuchus in the middle. Look at these bright, brilliant stars. Now, of course, I couldn't go too far without showing you another diagram. Here's how the 2 parts of the snake in the heavens are separated. See how we left Ophiuchus out of the equation? So typically, this serpens constellation runs between his legs. And I'm not going to go there either, but it's a visual to help you understand that the snake, its head is called caput and the tail is called cauda. And look how absolutely long and beautiful some of these stars are. The head you can see straight above. Just think of that beautiful triangle that looks like a head. All right. And then they name off some of these specific stars. Oh, but then I wanted to show you where the pillars of creation are. So I'm going to point this way. See those pillars of creation? Look that way. There's the Eagle Nebula and the pillars of creation. And I just love that name, Pillars of Creation and Star Nursery. I don't know, there's something so amazing. All right, now here, take a pause. If you're just listening, please look at the picture because this is the most recognizable and I think most Googled image, perhaps, of all the James Webb Telescope imagery. Look how much more detail we have. The pillars of creation. Look over there, that's it. It's a nebula in the tail of the snake, right? So, guess what? Here's a little more information. It's almost or about 7,000 light years away from Earth. So, when we go galactic, we think in terms not of mileage or linear, like, we think in terms of time, right? So when we open ourselves up to galactic consciousness, suddenly we're thinking in terms of time. Like how many thousands of light years away from Earth is this amazing pillar of creation? You can tell your friends over coffee, well, it's about 7,000. Thank you very much. Pillars of creation. Again, gas and dust, creating and birthing new stars. Now, there's this whole kind of, I don't know. I don't know what it's like in the womb. I'm not like a scientist, but I imagine, there's this, it's birth, but then there's creative chaos, right? And then there's death and destruction with the birth. Doesn't that sound a lot like what we know as the Scorpio, or the eighth house of birth, death, and renewal, rebirth? So, of course, I had to go find this funky picture of Kali, Kali. Look how many hands she has moving, stepping on top. She is the creator goddess, but it's death, birth, and it's the creative chaos all in between. But let's go back to that image of the stars, right? The pillars, tall pillars. It's not only creating stars, but unfortunately, some of the stars that are then growing are eroding the pillars. So it's being eroded by the light from nearby stars that have recently formed. So it's almost like, thanks, Mom. And then I'm going to take a little bit of you with me. So creation and destruction at the same time, as above, so below. In these pivotal moments, of course, as we're in, when the light and the dark come, this yin and yang, this death and life, everything's forming, but something new is being birthed within this creative chaos. Pillars of creation. Well, I wanted to just show you this to remind us that everything is a series of evolution. I know that's very general. I'll stop sharing. So, this idea that we can get so lost here on Earth with, I need more clarity. It just feels like the noise, the chaos, everyone's fighting. Things are changing. I don't feel right. Can't we go back to normal? Can't we go back? And unfortunately, with this river, this cosmic river of life, here's an image for you. And someone probably knows where it came from, but I carry it with me. And that's the idea that you can never step into the river in the same river twice. In other words, we're all in this cosmic galactic experience, having a human experience right now on Earth. And as our galactic consciousness grows and we see these stars or nebula, these pillars of creation, and eagles, nebula, and the serpent's constellation, it's a good reminder that nothing stays still, that there's always energy and motion, right? Even within our bodies, we think, okay, we're meditating, we're sitting still, but there's all this activity happening without our awareness on the biological level. So all I can say is we can never again step into the river at the same place twice. So why would we ever think in our human minds that we could ever go back or recreate the past? It's always about now, this moment, and this moment. There really, in some ways, is no past and future. It's always, as Eckhart Tolle always reminds me, it's now. It's being present in this moment. So, in this moment, how do I want to rock? I just so enjoy sharing information with you on the Ascension Playground. And I just read something too. It's this idea that ascension in human terms, we're always trying to think, oh, I just want to grow up, 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 and out. And yet, so much of it really is this idea of descension, coming down, down, down with our higher selves into our physical bodies and having this merged energy of recognizing that you are way more magnificent, way more than you probably ever imagined. And I have to tell myself that too. And I do believe the path to feeling this merging of your higher self with your current self, wherever you are on the timeline, that the path truly is as a child, is playing with energy, letting yourself dream again, find other playmates, enjoy smelling those roses, petting your puppies, spending time with your kitty. I'm not sure about always calling your kids, but if they're cute and sweet, sure, call them. But in this now moment, this is the idea. We are way, way more magnificent than we can even possibly imagine. So enjoy looking at the creation pillars, enjoy looking at the James Webb Telescope from NASA. And if you are on Facebook or other social media, there's so many amazing images coming from our galactic space, which have always been there. It's just we're seeing pictures of them finally. Thank you, thank you, thank you. This is part 3. I'm not sure if there's a part 4, but I just had to come out and share this extra information with you because those nebulas are so beautiful. Go have fun, go create, and have fun learning more about the stars above. Bye for now.